Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Dipti Kesi, and I lead the digital engagement team here at the Women's Venture Fund. We have been operating as a CDFI since 1997. We provide technical assistance, training, and courses to women entrepreneurs. And we also provide a variety of loan terms to women-owned small businesses. So if you have any question regarding our technical assistance, training, or loan programs, please reach out to me directly. I'm going to share my contact information at the end as well. So today we are back with another event on art of consultative selling for small business owners. We have an excellent panel today that will go through different topics. And in the end, we'll open for the Q&A session. And during the Q&A session, you can unmute your audio so you can ask your questions directly. And if you are comfortable, please feel free to start your video too. It's always good to see you. So please feel free to do so. Okay, so now let me introduce the moderator of our panel. Our moderator is Gabriela Pereira, who will moderate the panel discussion for the next 1.5 hours. Gabby is known in the industry as an operational excellence, strategy, and technology leader who has contributed to Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies. Throughout her career, she has led employee engagement and motivation initiatives for global teams. And in addition, she's known for her passion for people development, diversity, and cultural awareness. So Gabby, the panel is all yours. Please take the lead from here. I think you have to unmute yourself, Gabby.
Of course, the only moment when I mute myself, and it's now. So I'm really excited to join this panel as the moderator. As Dipti just said, today we are covering a really important topic, and it's the art of consultative selling for small business owners. We have two panelists, Jeff and Vinny, with us. Jeff Aguiar is Vice President of Sales North America for Crave Interactive. He's instrumental in expanding the firm's operations into international markets and capturing large projects throughout US and Canada. Vinod, aka Vinny Sankaran, is the founder and CEO of Medical Billing Wholesalers, MBW, a trusted partner of top medical billing and EMR companies in the US. And under his leadership in MBW, I keep thinking of BMW. I'm so sorry, Vinny.
That's
MBW
great. That's great.
has grown from 5 employees in 2010 to over 300 employees today, with locations in New York, Chennai, and Bangalore. We have 4 sessions today, each 15 minutes long. And after those sessions, we will open the Q&A for about 30 minutes. This will not be a regular conventional webinar. We will not be doing screen sharing, but we will share the presentation afterwards. For now, what we really want you to do is to focus on listening, because that's what salespeople really need to be very good at. So let's start with the first question to Jeff. In general, we think business development equals sales. Are they the same? Is business development a sales job?
Hi, Gabby. Thank you for the introduction and for allowing me to participate in today's discussion. First, let me just say I'm excited to be here, and I hope our participants will find our conversations beneficial. So let me start by saying that your question is a fantastic question. For good or bad, many companies look at sales and business development, or biz dev, as the same job, or at the very least, they use the title interchangeably. The reality of it is they are not the same. They require different activities performed by the individual. They require a different skill set. So I guess we should just start with looking at the definition of both, and that'll help us kind of better define them. So business development is defined as the creation of long-term value for an organization. So, some might say, well, what exactly does that mean? It's not really clear. Basically, what it means is business development activities help make a business better. And by better, what I mean is there are activities that increase revenue, increase growth, in terms of business expansion. They increase profitability. It could be building strategic partnerships and making strategic decisions. All of these are results that you gain from business development. The other side of that is sales. Sales basically, and not to oversimplify, but sales are activities involved in selling goods or services. So very different roles, but definitely complementary to each other.
So how does business development support the sales? What is the difference between business development and sales? If you want to expand on that, because you kind of described it already.
Yeah, that's another good question, to be honest. Business development helps create an environment for sales to happen. And I guess the easiest way to try to explain it is to give you an example. So let's say you own a hot dog cart company in New York City. Let's say you have 20 carts and you send your carts out to various random locations around, Manhattan. Now, the person operating the cart sells a hot dog to an individual. That's sales. You're selling a good to a customer. Now, let's say that you notice that 2 of your carts that are located outside a CVS are selling 20% more hot dogs than the rest of your carts. However, you're told by the store manager that they don't want your cart in front of their stores. What do? That's when you kind of put on your business development hat, right? So at that point, what you should do in business development is you'd want to get in touch with CVS corporate office to get permission to station your hot dog cart outside, let's say, the 20 CVS located in New York City. That would be an example of business development. You are creating a long-term value by partnering with CVS or getting permission to locate outside their stores. And hopefully what you'll see in the end is that 20% increase in revenue or sales across all your carts. So if you go back to my definition of business development or biz dev, it's the creation of long-time value for an organization.
Right. So is transactional selling ineffective? When do we start focusing on relationship selling?
Okay. Okay, let's unpack that. Let's look at the first question that you had first, and that is, are transactional selling ineffective? Transactional selling is an effective method. Many industries rely on almost exclusively on transactional selling. The food industry is a perfect example. Most food sales, whether it's groceries or restaurants, are transactional in nature. You need to remember that transactional sale is all about the short term. Get the sale. The focus is on winning the sale without much thought to customers' needs or the long term. A perfect example would be McDonald's. Their sales model, which is transactional, is effective. And last I checked, they're the leader in annual sales across the food industry. I think they do like 35 billion in sales across their franchises. So transactional sales are effective. The second part of your question was, when do you start focusing on relationship selling? So when do you start focusing on relationship selling? What you need to keep in mind is, regardless of the product or service that you provide, relationship selling should be a part of your strategy. If you think about it, as entrepreneurs, you spend a lot of time, money, and energy to get a customer. So since you've already invested in getting that customer, it only makes sense to do whatever you can to keep them coming back. And that's where relationship selling comes in. Relationship selling is all about the long-term relationship. I like examples because, you can go out there and read about a lot of these things, but they don't really paint a picture for you. So since I started with fast food industry, let's stay with that industry. So here's a question, and this is just something for you to think about, but which fast food chain do you think tries to build a relationship with its customers? Many of them don't, but I can think of at least 2 off the top of my head. Starbucks would be one of them. If you think about it, when you go into a local Starbucks, And I realize this might be a little different in New York City. I grew up in New York, so I understand, New York City and New York as a whole. But typically, when I go into a Starbucks, they know my name. They know what drink I'm going to order. Most of them have comfortable seating and couches. They're usually playing some type of cool music. The entire customer journey is about enticing you to return. So that's one example. Another example is Chick-fil-A. And again, it might be a little different in Manhattan, but in a lot of the country, most of the country, Chick-fil-A hands down has the best customer experience, in my opinion, when it comes to fast food. They always have at least 2 employees outside in the drive-through line taking orders, rain or shine. Whenever you thank an employee for something, the employee always responds with "my pleasure" instead of "you're welcome." Like, well, what's the big deal about that? Why do they say it's my pleasure? I was actually reading about the owner of Chick-fil-A, and he was staying at a Ritz-Carlton, which we would all agree is considered a luxury brand in the hospitality industry. And at the Ritz-Carlton, they always reply with "my pleasure" instead of "you're welcome." And he believed it represents going that extra mile. So the bottom line here is there are a lot of things that you can do to build relationship with your customers. And you should be incorporating those strategies into your business immediately.
I'm going to start using "my pleasure" from now on. So how shall we stop selling and start building relationships? Okay,
good question. My advice would be that you want to be doing both. Remember, transactional selling or selling is all about that quick sale. And let's be honest, we need those quick sales to keep the lights on and making money. In my line of business, my sales cycle can be anywhere from 6 months to a year and a half. So I always appreciate something that's like low-hanging fruit that I can close quickly, kind of like transactional. So I would never recommend that you get away with transactional sales. Those quick sales are always nice for any business, doesn't matter what it is. So the question should really be is, when do I start doing relationship selling? And that's what I was alluding to just a moment ago. And the answer should be immediately. But you need to understand that it takes time to build relationships. So in the meantime, you want to still be doing as much as transactional selling as you can to pay the bills. So how do you do transactional selling? First, you want to remember the reason for relationship selling is to improve customer retention and build customer loyalty. So how do you go about doing that? You can do that a number of ways. One is communication as a key. It's good to, as a key to any good relationship, communication is essential to building a good relationship. So promote your business and listen to your customers are equally important. You want to exceed expectation. Your customers expect great products and services from you. You should continue to raise the bar on what your company offers. To put it another way, think about being Scotty from Star Trek and the Enterprise. You always want to underpromise and overdeliver. When you impress your customers, they keep coming back. Another thing that you can do to build that relationship is ask for feedback. Whether customers have good or bad opinion of your business, they'll mostly be willing to provide that feedback to you. You can place comment cards on your business calendar. You can conduct a survey. To find out their specific needs and develop that best solution for their problems. The better your offering meets their needs, the more your business will grow. And then lastly, I would just talk about, connection and connecting with your customers. And technology today, there are more ways to connect with your customers than ever before. Begin conversation with your customers through online tools, social media. There's just a lot of opportunity for you to reach your customers. The only caveat that I would say is when you're engaging with customers online, be careful not to create a one-way conversation. Ask your customers questions, respond to their inquiries. Make sure your website is top notch. And if you can start a blog to engage with your customers or prospects, you should. You can build a lot of customer relationship through your online presence. And then lastly is to show appreciation. Reward longtime customers with a loyalty program. You can hand out, reward cards. You can use a loyalty program or app to track customer rewards. It doesn't have to be big or expensive, but those are some of the things that you can start to do, immediately to start building those relationships with your customers. That's
awesome. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Oh, got you. Where's your my pleasure?
My pleasure.
So here are a few takeaways from session one. Remember, you will have the presentation, but just to start triggering some of those questions that you can ask at the end of the fourth session. Business development is the process of finding the match between product or solution and a segment in the market. Sales is the process of systematically generating revenue with the product or solution in the chosen market segment in the race for market leadership. Transactional selling works well for low-cost commoditized products where it doesn't make sense for the rep to invest in getting to know their buyers. In relationship selling, rapport building between the rep and the buyer is emphasized more than the features or the price of the offering. So hopefully that sums it up, Jeff. Great. So
you did a fantastic job.
Thank you. You're welcome. No. Yeah. We will now move to the most important question. How do we convert leads into buyers? What do you cover in initial and follow-up sales calls? We have Vinny to cover that topic. So Vinny, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gabby, Deepthi, and Jeff. The session one was awesome. Everything I wanted to say, you already said. So some things I might have to repeat, but let me start on this. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited. So Gabby, before I get into this, the questions, I have a few tips that we'll go through about how to convert leads into customers. But before we do that, I just want to roughly talk about the whole process. Sometimes they call it the sales funnel. They call it the social engineering process. There are a lot of names given to it. Pretty much, from the start till people think till you get the sale, but actually it goes further. Like Jeff said, right? Once you have the relationship, the goal is to retain the client is as important as getting the client, right? So you actually have to find, there's a whole process. So the first step, we'll call it marketing. Marketing usually involves a couple of processes: finding prospects, nurturing them. You have to reach out to them and show that you actually exist. They don't know you exist. You have to reach out to them digitally, face-to-face, by phone call, email. There are a lot of things. So we're not going to get into how to reach them. But first is find them, nurture them, and get them a little mature, meaning you might have a funnel of 1,000 people. Not everybody's going to be a prospect. So you want to identify the right ones and get them to a point where you're like, okay, these people make sense. We have to reach out to them and actually engage. Then the sales development starts and you actually activate and develop them. That's a next process. And then you actually go into the sales process that is actually winning them over, convincing them, building the relationship that Jeff mentioned, and actually making the sale. But it's not over yet. You still have something called customer success. So you want to keep the clients, and many times you can actually upsell and you can grow with your existing clients. A lot of people miss out on that because they think, okay, let's say in case of service, in this case, you might have 10 different services that your company offers, and this client has one. Unless you engage and have the relationship with them, maybe they need the other 2 services that you offer, or all of them. So till you have that conversation with them, you'll never know. So that's the first thing. So marketing, sales development, sales, customer success. This is like a whole thing that we'll talk about. So just wanted to give you the background before we, start into the tips. I mean, we can give like 25 tips, 50 tips to convert leads into customers. So we came up with 9 tips because of time constraints. So I'm going to go over that briefly. And like Jeff mentioned, we're going to share this presentation with you. You can take a little notes. Some of them will be examples, but the main points will be there in our presentation. The first thing is communicating value. You as a company, be it a product or service, have some value. The first thing is to focus on the value and convey it to your customers, right? If you don't do that, they don't understand what you have to offer. And people really don't like, salespeople if all they're trying to do is close the sale. It's really a bad turnoff. You never want to do that. It should lead into the conversation and it should end in a sale, but you never want to start by being a pushy salesman. Nobody likes that, right? So talk about the value and don't keep pushing on the sale. You'll get to that, right? Act as a mentor and a friend to them. Show them how you're an expert in your field. And if you build that relationship, they will ask you how you can solve their problems, right? And that is point 2, identify their problem. So sometimes in sales, it's called identifying their pain points. You want to first find out what their pain points are. And then, like Jeff said, you have to paint a picture of utopia and how you can get them from where they are with problems. They might have 5 problems, 10 problems, how you can get them from there to utopia in their world. So if you take a service, in our case, we sell, we are in healthcare business. We do medical billing and coding. And almost everybody we have seen in the last 10, 11 years, they always have problems. You ask them, they'll say no. Ask them questions. Make it a conversation. So if you engage in a 2-way conversation, asking them questions, okay, so what are you currently doing? How do you like it? Are you happy with the turnaround time? Are you getting emails regularly? Is the communication good? Is there something they can improve? So if you ask questions, but let them talk, right? A lot of things today, the reason we're not sharing this presentation is to improve your listening skills. And it is a big, big problem with everybody, especially in the world of social media. People get distracted with phones, emails. So the goal, especially when you're trying to sell, is to listen. The minimum is you should spend 50% listening. It's actually better if you spend 75% listening and 25% talking. That's usually how it should fall. But minimum is 50. If you end up talking 80% of the time, you're not going to get the sale. So that's point 3. The first one was communicate value. The second was identify their pain points or problems. The third one is make it a conversation, right? So ask them questions, let them speak. You might have to use some icebreakers to get them to speak. And once they start, trust me, they'll tell you all the problems, more than what you need to know. And take detailed notes, listen, and only then you can ask the next question, which makes sense, right? Once you're through these steps, you understand what they're looking for, offer an incentive if you can. So in this case, products and services are a little different, but there are a lot of things that I'm talking about apply to both of them. So you can offer an incentive. Many times you would see salespeople offering this. It could be a free gift. It could be saying a discount of 15%, 20%, but they say you have to meet your quota. You want to finish it by the end of the week. You have to, give them a reason to move fast. If not, they're going to delay and they're going to say, okay, I'll get back to you in a week, in 2 weeks, and then you have to follow up. It happens many times, but at least you should try to give them an incentive to move faster. And they will only if there's a need from their side. So you should understand that. Also, now point 5 would be asking for the sale. What happens is many times they talk, they build a rapport and they think that's great, but the salesperson actually forgets to ask for the sale, saying, ask them, okay, where do we go from here? When can we start? Are you ready to sign the agreement? Whatever the case might be in your case, if it's a product, when can I ship it to you? A lot of things you can ask them that actually you're asking them for a sale. Many times they leave that part out. It's a crucial step. It's kind of understood, but some people miss it. So that's very important. Jeff was mentioning about the website, digital marketing. So a lot of times, when you talk to 10 or 15 different prospects or clients, you have a rough idea of what questions they all ask. So if you can make a short video and put it on, let's say, LinkedIn, your website, a blog, whatever you have, it might solve you a lot of time and effort. So build a great website with good content. So good content is actually adding value. It builds your brand. It tells you that you are an expert in your field, whatever it might be. If you're selling hot dogs, you could still have a video. You could have a funny video on TikTok and might do wonders. If you have a service, you can have a video, right? You can have a short video. Don't make it too long. 30 seconds, a minute, depends on how complicated your service or product is. Same with FAQs. Have a few FAQs on your website. Generate some content. You don't have to be a great writer. A few words, people don't have the patience anymore. So if you write a paragraph or two explaining something about your industry, your product, and put it on your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your website, it does wonders, right? Following up. So not every sale can be closed the first time you talk to them, meet. Like Jeff said, his sales cycle is 6 months to a year and a half. Our sales cycle is usually 3 months to 6 months. And sometimes we're lucky, the low-hanging fruit, we get them in 3 to 4 weeks. That's the best case scenario because we're business-to-business service. That's how it works. So follow-up is key. So when you have a lot of leads, each one has a different stage. So you want to create stages and you want to have a CRM to manage your sales funnel. You might think, I only have 5 leads. You have 5 today. You might have 5 the next week and so on. And if you don't keep track of them using a CRM, you're going to lose them. You can't remember them all. You need a task management or a CRM. And you have very inexpensive CRMs like Zoho, or you even have free ones like HubSpot, which are great. So you should check them out. They're easy to use. I highly recommend that you should use them, a task management tool and a CRM. The point 8 would be, ask your leads questions. Ask them questions, we spoke last week. Did you have time to look at it? Are there any questions I didn't answer last time? Is there anything else I can help you with? And I'm a big believer of face-to-face meetings. The technology is great. Zoom helps. But if I can meet a person face-to-face, the relationship that I can build jumps like 3 months ahead. But again, that depends on the business. If you're selling a hot dog, I think you have to meet them face-to-face. You can't sell it on Zoom. So let's not go there. But it depends on what kind of business it is. If it makes sense for you to go meet them face-to-face, please do.
Didi, can you say the CRM names again, please? Someone is asking.
CRM names, yes. One is Zoho, ZOHO. And the other one is HubSpot, HUBSPOT. There are many others, but these two are inexpensive and it's a good way to start, and they're not very tough to learn. And it'll be there in the presentation. I've actually written it down. The last point I would like to say in this part is gain their trust and remember them. So you speak to a lot of people, try to remember their story, some little things they told about their life, their personal stuff. If you start with that, so let's say somebody likes, ice hockey, or somebody likes the New England Patriots, talk about that. Makes a big difference. It doesn't really make a difference whether you like football or not. That's why I watch all the sports, at least know enough so I can talk. Because you have to be genuine. That's the next thing. You can't lie your way into building trust. They have to genuinely like you. You have to genuinely be friendly, and you have to speak the truth. So if you're not a big fan of baseball, I'm not. I know enough about baseball to talk, but I tell them, hey, I'm not. And then I divert to something else I like, maybe soccer. That's what I like. So I would go there. But at least, you should talk and listen to what they say. If they're a big baseball fan, I shall listen to them. Or if they like fishing, anything like that, right? So every meeting should be a conversation, not a sales pitch. And spend at least 50% or more listening to your prospect, your customer. Did that help, or did I talk too much?
No, it was great and on time. So
okay.
You're making my job easy.
Right. I just wanted to add a few more things, just like a couple of tips about sales. Sure. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard this, but one, as I told you about CRM, so we're not going to go into that. As a salesperson, I love to hear yes, right? I would love, oh, this is great. It sounds great. Where can I sign up? It sounds great. It rarely happens, right? The second best thing to hearing yes is a no. People are like, seriously? I'm like, yes. A no actually helps you a lot. It saves you time, at least for now. I move them in the back burner and I revisit it after 6 months, a year. And depends on what kind of no they say. They say, no, we already have what you have. We have our own company. We're not going to do it. Then I know it's a permanent no. Then I move it in a different part of the CRM. If it's a no, it can be only temporary. That means, okay, let me do a little more research on them. Let me be patient, find out about them, be persistent, and follow up with them after, but not every day, every week. If it's a no, the maybes are what actually wastes your time, because these are people who can make up their mind and they kind of string you along. If you can identify that, you will be a superstar salesperson. It's not an easy skill. It comes with experience. But if you can do that, you've achieved it. And the last thing I would have to add is, don't take rejection personally. It's not personal. It happens every day. And, just see what kind of rejection it is. Is it a permanent rejection? Is it a maybe? Or do you need something else to do to get them from A to B? So figure that out and just move on to the next lead. And that's kind of all I have to say for this session.
Excellent. So a couple of takeaways from this session for everyone to start thinking of their questions. Communicate value first. Focus on bringing value into the life of your customers. Identify the customer's problem. Develop trust, gain trust, and of course, ask for the sale. It's a crucial part of the conversion process. So it will be great if we can convert every lead into a buyer, of course, but is it that easy? Sales also means dealing with a lot of rejections and objections. So let's understand how we can deal with those rejections and objections. So Jeff, please help us.
Awesome.
Absolutely. By the way, Vinod, I know we didn't talk at all when we were preparing this presentation, but I just have hats off to you because you're spot on. I mean, when it comes to sales, all of us want to hear yes from our customers. We want to get a lead and turn that into a sale. But as Vinod mentioned, I like no's as quickly as I can get them as well, because that just tells me that I don't have to waste time with that person because they're not ready to buy yet. You put them in your CRM so that you can go back and tickle them and stay in contact. It's the maybes. Well, maybe I'll buy that are the worst, because you can spend an enormous amount of time with somebody and at the end of the day they don't buy, and you can't get that time back. So I thought that was some really good advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
so I think my topic here is objections. So what I want to do is let's just call it the way it is, or the elephant in the corner of the room. Salespeople are going to get rejected. You're going to have objections, and when I say that, I want to emphasize that you're going to get a lot of them. It's just the nature of sales. But what you want to just remember is not to get discouraged. They're not saying no to you. They're not saying, I don't want to buy from you. There are usually other reasons why, the sale's not happening at that particular time. So it's important that you understand that going into it, that it's just part of the process. You're not going to sell to everybody. So with that said, how can you handle objections? First and foremost, and this is, it doesn't matter what the company is, what line of industry or what industry you're in. First and foremost, you need to know what your top objections are and practice how to respond to those. No matter what you're selling, there'll be different objectives. So objections, excuse me. So I can't list them. You should know what your top objections are, or the ones that you're getting the most often, and you should practice your response to those, so that you'll be able to handle those objections without really having to think about it. It'll just come naturally in your conversation. So that would be the first thing that I would recommend. Other things that you can do when you get an objection, or other things that you should consider doing or commonly advised is, let's say you get an objection, you ask, are you ready to move forward? And they're like, well, and they give you an objection. The first thing you want to do is you want to clarify it. You want to make sure that you understand it, what they're objecting to. And the reason I say it is because typically you don't want to take that first objection at face value. Usually there's something deeper, or there's some other aspect to that objection that you might not understand yet. So you definitely want to clarify it. My recommendations would be to, think of yourself as a journalist. You want to know what, when, where, why, and how. So you want to ask questions to understand what their objection is, because without understanding it, you could never solve it. And typically by asking those questions, you'll get to the real reason of that particular objection. The other thing is you want to show empathy. Based on the prospect's clarification, you want to show empathy, meaning you want to understand what they're telling you. But key note here, and this is I would put asterisks next to this, you don't want to agree with the client's objection. So what do I mean by that? So let's just say I'm selling guest room phones or office phones, and I have two colors, black and this beige type color. Let's say the customer doesn't want black, but they don't like the beige, and they tell you that. You don't want to agree with them and say, yeah, I totally understand the beige is an ugly color, because now you've just validated their objection. Instead, you want to say, something along the lines of, I understand that it can be a concern, meaning the color, and then you can go into an explanation why, you don't believe that it is, meaning, we sell X number of phones a year. Everybody's taste is a little different. We found that this particular color kind of goes with most office decor or what have you. The bottom line is you don't want to agree with them, because as soon as you agree with them, you validate that objection, and then it's hard to overcome it. So empathize, but don't agree. So I want to give you that example so you understand that. You also want to determine if the objection is a misunderstanding or an actual disadvantage. So depending on the clarification of the objection, you should be able to identify whether it's a misunderstanding or just an actual disadvantage. If it's a misunderstanding, no problem. You just clarify the knowledge gap there. So if they misunderstand what your product or your service does, then all you have to do is clarify it. So you need to know your product. If it's an actual disadvantage, then you need to understand, is it a must-have or is it a nice-to-have? And often what you'll find is it's a nice-to-have. If the objection is a disadvantage, then once you determine whether it's a must-have or a nice-to-have, if it is a must-have and there's no way that you can get around it, that's actually good, right? Because you get to the point where maybe it's time that you disqualify this opportunity and you move on to, it benefits your client and yourself and your own best interests. There'll be times where, you just can't get past an objection. And, kind of like I was mentioning earlier, I want to know that as soon as possible in sales. It's not that I'm rushing the sale, but the sooner that I know that, the sooner I can move on to the next one. Because at the end of the day, after all the things that you think about sales and you learn about sales, it comes down to a numbers game. Whether you're talking about your close rate, your funnel, filling your funnel, it's just all numbers. So you don't want to waste with your time on a prospect that you can't satisfy their need. Other examples or other objections that you're going to get are it's too expensive, it's not the right time, I'm just doing research. I mean, you can do a Google search and the list goes on and on about objections. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, we don't have time to cover them all. So since we have limited time, what I'd like to do is talk about how you avoid objections, or at the very least, answer most of the most common ones during your conversation or your presentation. And believe me, what I'm about to tell you was a struggle for a lot of salespeople. I've been in sales for 20 years now, and I don't know, why people struggle with this, but if you can master this in your sales process, you're going to find that you have fewer objections and fewer rejections in the sales process. And it's not difficult. All you have to do is ask a ton of questions on the front end. And again, sounds simple, but I know, like I mentioned, from my sales experience, that salespeople find it difficult. I'm not sure if it's because they don't give themselves permission to ask questions, or if they feel like they're asking too many. It doesn't really matter what your reason is, you still want to do it. And there's a number of reasons. First, you want to qualify your lead. By asking questions, you find out if they are truly ready to buy. I mean, we all love, like Vinod was saying earlier, we all love yes. As Vinod and I both said, we also love no, but the maybes are the worst. So asking your questions up front can get past all of that. Now, the questions that you should be asking on the front end are, what problems are you facing? If a prospect is buying, your product, your service, it's likely that there's a problem they're looking to solve. Now, obviously, you can assume that the problems are based on, the utility of your product or service, but it's important to assess how your product might impact that prospect's business. So knowing this can help you judge the prospect's intent and urgency to buy the product. So you definitely want to know what you're trying to solve, what problem that they're trying to solve. The big one that I always ask, and again, because my sales cycles are so long, is, qualify the budget. Has the customer budgeted for this product or service if that's something that's required in your particular business. Obviously, the higher the ticket price, the more that comes into play. But you want to know if they have the funds to buy your product. If they don't, well, then that you can provide them some information. But in your CRM, you put that as it's a lead, and I'm going to continue to nurture it over the next few months, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. So you definitely want to know if they have budget. You want to, again, depending on who you're talking to as a prospect, you want to qualify for authority. So in my business, or I work for somebody, it's not my company. I wish it was, but it's not. Often I'm working with a lead or a prospect that's not the decision maker. Actually, most often it's not. So I want to understand, are you the decision maker? If they're not, well, what is the decision-making process? How is that going to work? Occasionally what I'll see is, they'll tell me, well, I'm just collecting the information and then I'm going to present. You want to avoid that as much as you possibly can, because nobody's going to present your product better than you are. So you want to have a conversation with this prospect, provide them the information that they're asking for, but during that conversation, you want to let them know that, hey, I'm here to assist you. I want to make sure that you're coming across and looking like a rock star and gathering all this information. Basically, you want to try to position yourself as, I'm here to help you look good when you present this, and you want to do everything that you possibly can to get in front of that decision maker. Otherwise, you're hampering your ability to close that deal. It doesn't mean that you won't get it. You definitely won't always be able to get in front of the decision maker, but you always want to understand what that process is. Is it a single person make decision? Is it a quorum that needs to agree on it? Whatever it is, you want to try to get in front of those individuals. You want to qualify at the front end, their need and their timing. When are you looking to make a decision? Again, going back to the question about identifying their problem. If you identify their problem and now you're getting to the need and the timing, your question should be, if I can show you that I can do this, this, and this, which solves your problem, will we be able to move forward? I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase, always be closing. You want to be doing that on that front end. You want to make sure that you understand that the time that you're going to invest on this lead has the highest opportunity for closing. And again, a lot of salespeople, they just want to get in there and start talking about their product, and this is what we do, and not ask all these questions on the front end. And then they're surprised, which drives me insane as a head of sales, when they spent, a couple of months on it. And they come back and tell me that, well, they really don't have budget right now. They're planning for next year. It's not a problem that that's the case. The problem is you just didn't know that going in. So you could have spent less time on that opportunity right now, and just, continue to nurture it and spent more time on opportunities that are going to close sooner or immediately. Other questions that you might want to ask, or are you evaluating other solutions? This is always good, particularly if you know your competition, you know their strengths, their weaknesses. So, again, you want to incorporate that, or you probably already have incorporated that into your presentation when you're talking about your product or services. Another good one is how does procurement work? Depending on what your customer is, and this might not make sense for smaller organizations that you sell to, but for the mid and large size, how does procurement actually work? So these are the questions that you want to ask on the front end, and you want to target your questions around your most frequent objections. That way you get them out of the way. So that way you don't go through a long presentation, you spent weeks, months, whatever it is, trying to get the deal. And then you come back and they're like, well, no, we're not going to do this because of whatever the objection is. If you handle it on the front end, you're not going to get that objection. You've already circumvent that problem. And the list goes on. I mean, I couldn't possibly go through all the takeaways that or the questions that you'd want to ask on the front end. It just depends on your industry, on what you're selling, et cetera. But if you ask those questions around your main objections that you typically get, that will put you ahead of the game and limit the number of objections and potentially the number of rejections that you get. So that's my advice. Thank you.
So in summary, listen, acknowledge, explore, and respond. Those were great examples of objections. I hope everyone agrees with that. So how we can overcome those overcome those objections. When confronted with an objection, first listen. Remember to always listen. Then acknowledge the concern, explore the concerns underlying the objection, and then, only then, respond. So now let's move to the final session, closing the deal. We will talk about negotiating and reinforcing agreements. Vinny will cover this final point.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. That was very, very useful. I just want to add two things, adding to what Jeff said. It's always a great idea to know your competition, so you know what you're dealing with. It depends on the industry. You might not be able to keep track of all the competition, but at least you should know who your top competition is, 3, 5, 7. And I try to keep it in the positive. Don't badmouth your competition, but say how you're better. Never badmouth the competition. I'm sure Jeff agrees, but you want to keep it in the positive, right? They might really be a bad company, but that is for you to say how you're good, and for the potential prospect to make the distinction that they are bad, that they'll do it themselves. Leave it to them. Their mind will work that way. You focus on the positive. That's one thing. The other thing when it comes to selling is you have to believe in your product or service genuinely. If you don't, you can't even start. If you don't believe in what you're selling, be it a product or a service, you're not even going to get off the ground. So these are just 2 points I wanted to do before I go into that. So, so this one, we're going to talk about a few steps about, closing the deal, how to negotiate and reinforcing agreements. So let's just start with that. The first one is find out how you're providing a solution, how you're providing a value for your potential client. And everything that we talked about in the last 3 sessions is pretty much what we are trying to say here. Asking questions, finding out what they need, what are their pain points, and only then you'll know what you're offering. Is it actually a value add for the client? Because if it is, the likelihood of them buying from you and being a long-time customer is going to be, great, right? The other one is what Jeff talked about, budgets. And you want to make sure that what you're offering aligns with what they have in terms of existing projects and investments. Sometimes they really don't have the budget for what you're talking about. You want to know about it as early as possible and revisit it after a few months. So you want to find out as soon as possible. You want to make sure what you're offering aligns with what they're doing. So for example, let's say you are a technology company and you're doing something in, automation, let's say. but they just finished spending a lot of money on their IT, and you know it's not going to happen for this year. There's no point of doing that. Just say hello, document it on your CRM, reach out to them, and their budget might be, maybe they get funding twice a year, maybe it's only once a year. You want to know it as soon as possible, right? One of the things that Jeff mentioned was, you want to find out what drives them and what is the compelling event that makes them choose you or make a decision, be it buying your service or product. You want to understand the inner sea. When you ask them questions, many times they tell you something, but like Jeff said, you don't take it at face value. As you dig deeper, you'll understand the real meaning. There might be some issues. There might be a change in management. There are a lot of factors that could affect a company's decision-making possibility. So you want to definitely find out about those. And selling at the right level. You want to sell to the decision maker. Many times it's not always possible because you have a lead in a company. They might be either really high up, meaning they don't want to be bothered with that. You're selling a small product and you're talking to the CEO, it might not be the right person. You want to talk to maybe the person who makes a decision. It could be the director level person, a manager level person, or you're talking to somebody who's too low and doesn't have the authority to make that. Then you end up wasting time. So that's why questions are so important. So you find out what their responsibility is. That's why you also have to do a little research. So you want to sell at the right level. Too many times, you lose deal because you do not identify the influencers or the decision makers or who are involved in the processes. So that's kind of important. The other point would be understand how decisions are made. I already mentioned this, but this is very important. You want to ask the right questions to understand how you can close the deal. Meeting deadlines is very important. When you make a commitment to a prospect, you want to meet our deadlines. It could be very simple things like, I will send you an email by end of day, meaning you send them an email by end of day. I will reach out to you by end of this week, means you reach out to them by end of this week. And if for some reason you can't, let them know. They're not going to take it in the bad way. It's better you reach out to them. If you make them, it could be little things like that. And obviously, bigger things are more important. So let's say you have to do an analysis for them, business analysis, let's say, and you have to get back to them. So then you can go to the next step and you tell them it'll take them 2 days and you disappear for 2 weeks. They're not going to respond to you because you lost all the trust and credibility that you built in your meeting, in your call. So make sure you can meet every deadline. Sometimes, there are emergencies. You can let them know as soon as possible. If you tell them something is going to be delayed, it's always better than them asking you why it was delayed. You can't go back from that. So be very aware of that. Value of your solution. So restate the value of the solution. So what I do is generally I start by asking people questions and telling us how we add value. But first I find out more about what they do. First we do research and we find out what their needs are, where there are gaps. And then we talk about the value. But in closing, you also restate the value of your solutions and how you can save them time, money, be more efficient, whatever the case might be. If it's a product, how it could make their lives easier, save them, or affect their bottom line, whatever the case might be, product or service is the same kind of logic, right? And assume the sale. That basically means that you should always assume that the prospect will make the purchase when they need your solution. And how do you find that out? By asking questions. Okay, so you have to, get those questions, do the conversations like we talked about, listen, get there, and then you talk about the agreement, ask for the sale, and then you'll get to the important step of the agreement. Now, many times what happens is when you come to the agreement stage, a lot of salespeople make it really tough for them to sign the agreements. With technology, it's very easy. Make the agreements easy to read. Sometimes I know legal gets involved and it makes it so tough. I see it all the time. And you technically are doing a few different services and they have a 25-page agreement. Nobody wants to read that. So I worked with our legal to make it a short 3-page agreement, very simple terms. These are the terms. In case you want to leave us, this is the termination clause. The agreement is for a year, so on and so forth. Keep it simple and place the burden of the agreement on yourself, not on the customer. give it to them so it's easy to sign. Give it to them in a digital format if that helps. Make it easy. Also, when we started, I talked about the whole sales process. Know that you're never done selling. In what I mean to say is, once the agreement is signed, doesn't mean hands off and you can go away. You are the one who started the relationship. Even though you might hand it over to, let's say, operations or customer service, you still have to be involved because you have the relationship. You can't just take the relationship and give it to somebody day one. It takes time. The other person has to get involved. They have to start working, and slowly you might be able to ease yourself off. But also you want to keep in touch so you can sell them other services, upsell when the time is right. So always, be in contact. That doesn't mean you talk to them every day, but you have to be, with them. I have a couple of examples of how to close some sales if you have time, Gabby.
You can take 2 more minutes.
And
then I'll speed up.
All right, you got it. So there are a lot of examples of how to close a sale. There are different methods. Some of them is, you try to get them to close as soon as possible, like I mentioned, by giving them incentives. So you can say, if you sign up today, we can give you a 15% discount or something like that. It's kind of now or never kind of sales. Sometimes you can offer them free, let's say it's a big washing machine or something, you can offer free delivery, installation, but you have to order by this Friday or something like that. That's always something that works in products. Sometimes, or many times, customers will ask you for a discount. And you think about it and you basically say, it's going to be a little tough, but I'll do it for you. Can we sign the agreement today? So you're giving them a discount, but you need something in return. You say it in a nice way and you try to get that. So many times it works because you're kind of doing them a favor. So that's the mindset they have. So you should act like it's, you basically tell them it's really tough. I have to make some calls. If you're not the main decision maker, if you are the main decision maker, then you can't do that. You basically tell them, yes, it's a little tough, but I can do it for you because I see long-term value in you being a client, and tell them, but we need the agreement signed today and we can make it happen. Stuff like that, right? Always ask for the sale, like we mentioned. And we could, there are many, many other things which will be shared in the presentation. I think I should stop right now. We're almost at 3 p.m.
Yes.
Over to you,
So
Gabby.
I will just summarize the key takeaways for this one. Confidence as a salesperson comes from understanding how your solution will address the prospect's need, the real need, or help capitalize on an opportunity, and sell at the right level and understand how decisions are made. Meet the deadlines you committed to, make sure expectations are met, and follow up. So we are at the top of the hour. Aren't we good? We did it on time. So we will open the Q&A section. To ensure we understand your questions, please raise your hand and we will allow you to speak directly. If you're comfortable, you can turn on your video too. This is a great way to network with these 2 sales experts who can help you in the future too. So do we have any questions?
I see Maria's question. Maria, if you want to ask the question directly, you are now ask the question directly. And if you want to, Maria, if you're still there, you can ask your questions. I can see your questions.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're more than welcome to start your video if you want to.
Sorry. I was wondering, the rhythm. I see there was a long answer to my question, which I really appreciate. But I guess I was wondering about the ideal rhythm for following up. And the one other question I had was that I never get a no. I always they ghost me. I mean, they just don't answer emails, and or they won't respond to messages, voicemails that I leave. So I don't think I think I've only gotten one no out of all the hundreds of calls that I've made, and they're mostly cold calls. So warm leads are more successful, but for cold calls, I'll do all this work and even present a proposal and all of that, and then it will just be like I never hear back, and I seriously wonder, did they leave the country? Did something happen? Where are they? I look on LinkedIn. I mean, I find them on there. So I really just don't know why that is or how to get around that.
But do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, go on. Go on.
Yeah. So, Maria, first, let me just tell you that you are not alone. Everybody in sales faces this. I face this on a daily basis as well. What I can tell you is that, one of the biggest problems or one of the biggest concerns or feedback that you get from prospects, customers, et cetera, is that the salesperson never follows up. So it's important that you do follow up and that you continue to follow up. So I wouldn't say that there's a magic number, but if you get a warm lead, I would recommend that you want to reach out within 8 to 24 hours after getting that lead initially. Some of the things that I would look at is what content are you providing in your emails. If it's not working, maybe you just need to change, how you're responding or what you're saying in your emails. I think I wrote in my response to you is you want to make sure you have a call to action. You want to try to make it as easy as possible for that person to get in contact with you. So, for example, when I send out an email, I'll recommend some dates and then I'll put a link so that they can actually book time on my calendar.
Okay.
Again, just something that makes it a little easier for them. As far as how often, there is no, I don't think anybody's going to tell you, well, you have to do this or you have to do that. But, you want to send out an email. I would recommend that, let a day or two go by again. You want to send another email. I like to try to vary it and, send emails. I'll make a phone call to them if I have the number. If not, I'll do the research to find it. I'll leave a message for that individual. And then I might wait another 2 days before sending another email. In between then, I'm calling them. I might not leave a voicemail because I'm hoping they'll pick up. So it's not an easy answer. But what I would do is I definitely look at the content of your emails. Statistics are nice. Instead of saying, a lot of businesses find my product to do, to be helpful, give some statistics and just keep at it. I wish I had, even as I've been doing this for 20 years and I don't have a magic bullet. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I agree I was going to say that. So 2 different distinctions. One is about the warm leads and the cold call. Cold calls are always very, very tough. Before you do a cold call, you want to do as much research as possible, read up about them, because if you get them on the phone, let's say you only have one, the first impression, because they already don't know you. So you're already starting at a disadvantage. So cold calls are actually tough. So what we do is before we used to do a little cold calls. It was not very successful. It was almost hit and miss. So we try to cultivate them with content, get our branding done with LinkedIn, send them email like newsletters. And then it depends on people. Based on research, they say it takes 7 touch points for somebody to kind of recognize you and your company. The touch points could be different. One is they saw your website. One is they saw you on LinkedIn a couple of times, Facebook, a couple of newsletters, 1 phone call. So it says up to 7. Sometimes it can take 9. Sometimes it could be 5. So just because you don't hear from them or they ghost you twice, you shouldn't give up, right? In terms of how many times to follow up, like Jeff said, there's no magic number. It depends on your product and service. You definitely don't want to do it every day and really, that kind of becomes a bother. So in our industry, I do it more like once a week to once in 10 days, right? And it might alternate between a phone call and an email. And based on where they are in the pipeline, I go a little faster if they've already contacted me.
Vinod, if I could just add
Sure.
to that. So real quick, Maria, the other thing is, I don't know if you're using a CRM today.
No, I just have an Excel sheet, which is tough.
And a lot of people do. It's not uncommon for startups to use that. But Vinod mentioned Zoho, which I've actually used them both. I prefer HubSpot. I think HubSpot's fantastic.
Great.
And there's a free version of it. But what I was going to say is you can automate some of those emails within HubSpot. So as long as you're putting your data into the CRM correctly the first time, correct name spelling, correct capitalization, you can make these I don't know if they're tasks or I use Salesforce today, so I can't remember off the top of my head, but I can research it and get it over to you. But you can set up where you have a scheme of emails that are just going to go out to touch that customer. And particularly when they ghost you, you can have some other ones because you just want to touch that person. You're still nurturing it. They showed interest. Maybe something came up where they have huge network problems or, something personal going on in their life. There's this whole number of reasons why they ghost us, because they ghost me too. But you just want to try to nurture that in a CRM, particularly because some, Zoho and HubSpot are free versions of them. You can set up, touch points, as Vinod was mentioning, where you're touching them and just want to make sure that you're staying in front of them to let them know, and when they're ready, hopefully they'll is it workflows, Kimberly? When they're ready, they'll reach out to you. But again, no magic bullet. I wish.
Yeah, that's very helpful though. And the point you made about questions, I think, is interesting too. Like I'm in childcare, and I could definitely ask them about their kids. It would be appropriate, not personal, sure. And then remember that, and then just say, oh, by the way, how did your son's first day of daycare
or something? Daycare, I mean, there's be a lot of statistics that you can talk about them, particularly ones that you do well, like, and I'm just making things up, 88% of healthcare or daycare providers, they were found to have 7L in their thing or whatever. And you could talk about the cleaning procedures that you go through, just things to set you apart of, the other providers out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
If you have other questions.
I think Regine was the next one in line.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. But I don't know I enjoyed it, but I don't know how it applies to me because I just started my business and I do advertise on different social media, and my problem, I have low retention. For example, I have they come to the website and everything, but I don't have actual clients. So I don't know if you can give me some pointers on how to attract maybe more potential clients, if I may say, call them like that.
So, do you want to take that? I mean, I'm happy to.
Right. So we talked a lot about sales. Before sales starts, you want to, get, like we talked about website, Jeff mentioned it too, digital marketing. I think Deepthi and others are going to have another session on digital marketing soon, because there are a lot of things that you could do to get people in. So for example, let's say there are people who are coming to your website, you have to put away so you can track them, and then you can retarget them. So for example, 100 people come to your website and you have a bounce rate of the people who actually leave without doing anything, and you can actually try to retarget them and try to engage. But before that, you need content. You need to have a great LinkedIn profile, and whatever your business is, you have to start writing about that or do videos. If you are a video person, do videos. It's any day better than writing. I'm not a big video guy, so I do more writing, and art is a complicated subject. So it depends on the subject. And then once you build the brand and at least they know you as an expert, it takes time. These all things take time. Only then they will, take you seriously. Jeff, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if I may, what type of business do you have?
Yes, I have an LLC. I'm a dietitian, and I do publish every day. I also have a blog. I try to blog every month. I try to publish something every day. I'm also working part-time, so which makes it a little bit hard.
So when you say publish, you're creating content for?
Yes.
Okay,
I do try to publish something every day. Yeah.
Okay. So again, it sounds like we're going to have another presentation here in the near future to look at that. What I would recommend, and you might be doing it already, is look up Upwork. Upwork is a website. I use them all the time when I have projects that I need to do. Most recently, I had to put together a new pricing template, an automated pricing template for my sales team, which I could have done, but I'm not an Excel expert, so it would have taken me longer. So I go out to Upwork and I hired someone on a just one-time basis, and I gave them all my information, and they created it for me and gave it to me. In your particular business, Upwork might be a fantastic way to find additional customers willing to hire you to do publishing and content creation, I would highly recommend you research that website.
Right.
All right.
There's also
Thank you.
Fiverr.com. I just put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank
Both
you.
Upwork and Fiverr do kind of what Jeff said, and you can look for people if you need some projects done, and you can, put your profile so then people can reach out to you. And I've used it many, many times, and it's pretty good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure. Good luck.
Thanks.
Vanessa, you had a question. I don't know if you want me to read it or maybe just restate it directly.
Are you talking to me, Megan?
I was talking to Vanessa, but since you're unmuted, go ahead.
I'm here. I
okay.
didn't hear you said my name. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. Go ahead.
So I'm a real estate broker, and I guess I have a few other things that I also try to create other income streams. But as it relates to being a real estate broker, I was never a real estate agent. I was a real estate investor, and then I got my broker's license in 2017. So most of my customers have been by referral. And so one of the challenges with some of the referrals, I was doing property management, but it was too time consuming. So I'm shifting from property management. That was my original goal. That's why I got the broker's license, but it's too time consuming. So I get referrals, and sometimes I find, because real estate is very local, I'm in Bedford-Stuyvesant, and the referrals that I get, and some of them are older or women. And sometimes when people have been doing something so long, they might come to me with something specific where they need me help with, sort of coming up with a strategy, because some of them will own a few properties, but they never seem to want to, move forward. And I think it's more out of fear. So that's one of the challenges that I face in terms of the engagement, which I think Vinny talked about, like how to, move forward and they ask. But secondly, with the business, I'm trying to figure out how to attract new customers. Like, what do I do to attract new customers, and where do I spend money trying to get those new customers? So it's a lot of things that I'm trying to learn, and because I'm sort of new to the, real estate broker side of real estate.
Jeff, do you want me to take it?
No, I'm happy to take it. I mean, I'm not a real estate expert. I've bought a number of homes in the past. Obviously you're going to want to have a good website, a web presence, particularly for your area, because, when individuals are looking to buy or sell real estate, for example, I'm in the Charlotte area, or Denver, North Carolina area, I would Google, real estate agents in my area. So you want to make sure that you're coming up on those. The other thing is, LinkedIn. You want to make sure that you're on LinkedIn. I was just connected by some guy just yesterday in commercial real estate. I'm just going to bring it up. He just wanted to reach out, and he just sent a message saying, hey, I don't know if I can help you with your business, but, keep me in mind. And then, what's nice about LinkedIn is you can target people to specific cities or towns that are around you. You can search for them on LinkedIn, and it doesn't cost you anything to be a LinkedIn member. And then you can start reaching out to those people, kind of like he's done, and just send them content. It's all about sending information that's beneficial to somebody. They might not have a need today, but if you're constantly, and when I say constantly, I mean daily, but maybe monthly, getting something from you, you're more likely to be the person that they think of when they're ready to buy or sell or do something like that. If you look at my profile on LinkedIn, I've done a lot of blogs on there that I post on there. It's not because I have some great desire to write blogs or write articles for LinkedIn. Yeah. But what it does is it establishes, or it helps establish me as an expert in my field. So, content is just, at the end of the day, it's huge. And I'm a proponent of using as much free platforms as I can. Facebook's another location, that you'd want to take advantage of. So, I don't know that particular industry particularly well, other than as a home buyer and seller. But those would be some of my recommendations.
Right. I just wanted to add, so I know this industry a little more. I know a person called Walter. He's a local guy. He built a great website. He only sells on the New Jersey Gold Coast is what it's called. It's right on the water overlooking New York City. And he built a whole website. I'm just going to put it on the chat. It's a great website. He works for one of the real estate brokers. See, everything right now is MLS, right? So multi-listing, multi-level listing. So you could team up with somebody who's more experienced and local and split the commission. That's a great way to grow. That's how he did it. He was with another brokerage, and then he went to a different one. He was with all the big ones, right? Remax. I think he's with Keller Broker. There are different real estate guys. So they team up and they usually split the commission, which is good.
And that's a great way. Vinod, I didn't mean to interrupt. That's a great way to lower your cost to do because I mean, listen, promoting your company and advertising is not cheap. It's one of the more expensive things.
I do use what they call the MLS, but I remember Revenue. So that has helped me when I do get a referral to be on Revenue, because I get a bigger presence and I actually get more customers that will see the property. So the properties that I've sold, I have co-broke because they were with the bigger firms, but that allowed me to get the exposure through the, I think they call it IDX, I think. And so I was able to get that exposure. I'm just trying to figure out how to, I do Facebook a lot. I try to give a lot of information. I have LinkedIn, but I'm more present on LinkedIn now recently, trying to build some content, and Instagram. So it's just a lot of work.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yes, it is a lot of work.
Yeah. I would never say that it's not.
Yes, but you can target people, like Jeff said, both on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. And I think Deepti can talk a little more about that when the next session comes. Yep. But you can target, because real estate is very local. You don't want to spend money on, so let's say you're selling in Charlotte, you don't want to spend money in Raleigh. It doesn't help because that's not where you're selling. So you want to focus only on that industry, that locality. So your dollars go a longer way. So that's what I would say.
So let me move on to Megan, so that we have something like 13 minutes left. So let's cover as many questions as possible. Megan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, it might not apply. It's actually a little bit to the art of consultative selling, but I wanted to actually start out by saying I really appreciate you, Vinny, because you were on the Women's Venture Fund call, encouraging us all to apply for Paycheck Protection Program funding. And I did do that on your encouragement. And one of the other women you put us in touch with, my company is Chelsea Videos. So you put me in with a bunch of videos and similar non-1040 tax return people. And that did work. I got funding, and so did another woman on the call.
Happy to hear that.
Yes, we got PPP1, and I'm in line to get PPP2 maybe even this week. So it was because of you and Deepti. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we got it through American Lending Center. We were rejected by some of the others. We applied a lot. It was probably 125 documents, 25 each, that we had to keep uploading, but we did it. So my question for consultative selling is, again, my company is Chelsea Videos, and I produce very high quality video that is very informative in my backgrounds in daily newspaper and video journalism. But now the cell phones have become ubiquitous, and everybody, for TikTok and social media, uses them for very quick videos that they don't need to pay for and are very authentic because they're on the spot. So I don't know, in terms of giving value to clients, I can only, it seems I'm only relevant to high-end clients now, in terms of real estate, expensive real estate and explanations. And New York City agencies were a main source of income for me because I'm a certified woman business enterprise by New York City and New York State. But during the pandemic, that business pretty much went away, and it was impossible to reach anybody because they weren't at their phones. So now I'm having a lot of trouble positioning and target marketing my company. I wondered if you could speak to that in terms of, delivering value.
I kind of understand your industry. So for example, before this, who are your clients? Were your clients more customers? Were you B2C or B2B? Because based on what you're telling me, and I know the tools that are available, there's Splice, there's Canva, a lot of other tools that can make quick videos on the cheap. They can do it themselves, easy to use, and these have become tech companies, startups, and they're doing great for themselves. Many times where they lack is content, and you might want to target and reprogram your company to target more companies because they have the budget, and the other thing, they'll need the help in both content and they might have basic content, but they'll need help polishing it and also coming up with video, because we have spent a few $1,000s in the past creating professional videos. I mean, I know how to use these tools. These are good for an Instagram post, a LinkedIn post, but I would not use a corporate video and use it on one of these tools. They're different. They're different. This is good for an Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook kind of posting, short videos, and they have their utility. So what you would want to focus on is, I think, a different kind of business clientele. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I mean, again, I don't know, much about your specific business, but to Vinod's point, B2B to me seems like where you can make the most money with what you do. I know that at Intelli, at Crave, and a number of the companies that I've worked for, we've gone to video. We've gone to video for a lot of things, from sales presentation. Obviously, it's not going to do the whole sales process, but done videos for sales to help in the sales process. So I think businesses are utilizing video more and more. So I don't know if that's your target. Again, Upwork, I think, is a fantastic. I would recommend that you also look at Upwork or what the other one that you mentioned, Vinod. There are a lot of people that go out there, and you'll also see how other people are promoting, and it actually shows you, the amount of money that these other companies or LLCs or whatever have made in video production. That's all I really.
Just one thing, Gabby. I know we don't have too much time. We were actually planning to have another session, just Q&A, but we would like to get the questions beforehand, right, Deepthi? Because we were not able to cover everything today.
Yeah, we are going to have one-on-one follow-up session, Megan and others. If you still have very specific question related to your business, either Jeff or Vinny, you can have a one-on-one session with them. This is in the month of June, but before that, they will have enough information about your business so that they are prepared with the solution. Right now, it's a snow. I mean, so I will reach out to everybody, asking, if you are interested in one-on-one session, and I'll have additional questions about your business so I can provide that information to either Jeff and Vinny, and you'll have a one-on-one Zoom call with them. And also, I think Maria asked this question about what is our next session. Our next sessions, we are going to have on digital marketing. It's going to be, we ran a whole month sessions on digital marketing covering different topics in the past. So we're planning to come up with something similar after July 4th, maybe in mid-July to August 15. So I'll definitely inform all of you and, encourage all of you to attend all the sessions. So at that time, it won't be one session. We'll probably divide into 2 or 3 or 4 sessions because we really want to cover everything. And even after that also, we generally run one-on-one session again, giving you feedback on your website, on your digital marketing strategies, and so on. So these are all coming up this year. So we can move to next question, Gabby. I think
Sure. We have probably time for one more. So was Lexi next one in line, or Kimberly?
We'll see if we can get both of them.
Okay.
Let's start with somebody. Yeah.
The fastest shooter, Kimberly.
Hello. Thank you. And thank you all for the time for this. This is really very good information. My question is around the mindset of selling. I'm at a new point where I'm pivoting my business and now going from a B2C business to a B2B business. And I find myself, as I listen to your tools and tactics, struggling with how to get past feeling like that slimy salesperson. Sorry. So how do you get past, what are some resources, tools, tricks to get past that mindset?
Let's start with Vinny and Jeff, your experience.
Yeah, I saw your question, Kimberly, in the chat. I was just going to reply. There are some books for it, and some people are born salesmen. I just tripped and fell into it because of need. So that's how it happened. I'm sure Jeff has his own story. So when you think salesman, don't think of a used car salesman or a snake oil salesman. Get that out of your mind. Every business has to sell. If you don't sell, there's no business. There's no revenue. So, many times when they think salespeople, they're thinking about a used car salesman trying to push something that the person doesn't need, or, like a con man. That's not how it is, right? So you want to have value. You want to believe in what you're selling. And if you genuinely do that, then selling is just talking about yourself and how you can help that person. Forget selling for a second. It's about helping the other person and getting paid for that service. That's it. If you can get that as a mindset for you, then it becomes easier. Sometimes a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves. Like they say, I have to make every sale, and that's not right. And then they take rejections personally. If you can get past these three things I told you, I think it'll get much easier. All the other tools come afterwards. It's a mindset thing. If you are stuck here, then you can't go to the next step. Jeff, you want anything to add to that?
So Kimberly, I would just add to that I think, I kind of stumbled into sales as well. I've never had any professional training in sales. So my recommendation would be two things. One, understand that we all feel at some point in our career that, we're a fraud, or I'm not good at this. I think that everybody experiences that at some point, particularly as you grow in your career. I am a firm believer of fake it till you make it, right? You just need to believe that you're a salesperson. And one way that you can do that is understanding the sales process. And as Vinod pointed out, there are a lot of books out there. Depending on which process, well, you can just Google it. You don't have to get a book. You can Google it. You can go to YouTube and Google sales process. There are a number of different methodologies out there on sales. There's the Challenger, there's the Consultative, there's a whole bunch of them. But at the end of the day, it comes down to a process. And, it can be anywhere from a 5 to 7 step process. But if you understand those 5 steps to sales and you fake it till you make it, you'll be surprised at how well you can do.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So Lexi, all yours. You get to close the call.
Oh, great. Thank you. So just really quick. So I think the thing that we're struggling with right now the most is just brand awareness. So we're doing a lot of social media, a lot of publishing content, a lot of the things you've already mentioned. Any tips for cold emails, especially if there's really not much engagement with the first one? Like, do you have any ideas on what you could follow up with if the first email was just kind of a introduction, want to help you guys meet your goals, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Okay. Usually with email marketing, first you pick which email marketing tool you want to use, like MailChimp, Vertical Response. There are many, whichever suits your need and what your budget is. Start with that. And I always encourage doing A/B testing. It could be ABC testing. So like Jeff said, there's not one email, right? You don't know which email will work. So let's say you have 100 people. You want to divide it into 2 or 3 groups and have 3 different emails with different subject lines and test it out and see what the response and the click rate, the open rate is. Because many times you might read something and think, oh, this is awesome, but it doesn't resonate with the person receiving it. So you want to always do A/B testing. The more emails you have, the better testing and the results you'll get. So that's what I would usually do to start with in terms of email marketing, because the message is very important.
Yeah, I mean, yep. I didn't mean to interrupt, Vinod. Were you done?
No. Oh, yours. Go on.
Yeah, Alexia, I mean, unfortunately, there's not an easy answer to your question. I mean, Vinod is right. You know, one of the things that you want to do is A/B testing to see what your response rate is at. And we could have a whole another session on digital marketing and what you want to do. But I mean, it's so much more than just A/B testing. I mean, you want to have personas depending on what type of company that you're targeting. You want to have personas on the different people within an organization that you might be reaching out to. So, for example, in hospitality, we sell at the company I work for now, we sell a guest engagement product. So, personas within hospitality, you can be targeting someone in operations. An email to somebody in operations, you want to talk about, hey, I'm saving you this amount of money. You are increasing your incremental revenue by, X. Whereas somebody in, let's say, F&B, you want to focus on, hey, I'm going to, we see a 25% increase in in-room dining sales by using our product. So it's not one email fits all, kind of like Vinod was saying. I mean, not only do you need to do A/B testing to make sure that you're getting the right message out to the people that you want to contact, but also that you have the right content going to the right persona. And, I wish I could go into greater detail today, but this is a whole conversation on digital marketing, which I'm sure we're going to take note of, and we can schedule something where we talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. We will have follow-up sessions. So all of you, if you send me an email, we want Jeff, Vinny, and Gabby back. They will be back. But you have to email me. So you have to demand because my email is Dipti. You got my email. So I'm going to email all of you today. But please demand that Vinny, Jeff, and Gabby, they're back. They are our supporters. They are here to help us. They are our very, our advisory board members, our volunteers, and they have joined Women's Venture Fund so that, they can provide any kind of support to all of you there. So all you need to do is demand. So thank you so much, Vinny, Jeff, and of course, wonderful Gabby, for such a beautiful session. I enjoyed. I don't even realize it's already 1.5 hours, and I'm very sure all of us enjoyed. And thank you so much once again for your time, for your commitment, and we really hope to see you back again. And we will have sessions on digital marketing very soon. Once again, if you want to have a one-on-one session with Vinny and Jeff, please block your time. I'll reach out to you again, asking for your time, and so that we can block Vinny's and Jeff's time. And I'll definitely let you know about our upcoming sessions on digital marketing, or if there is any other topic that you want us to provide, let us know. We will do that also. So thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Vinny, and thank you, Gabby. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.